In this video, I'm going to supply you with information, tips, and tricks with regards to managing your time around your hobby. We're going to break down your hobby, your life, and your schedule. Not sure where I was going with this. Roll the intro. So, time. How much do we need? How much do we have to spare? Where do we even start? I think we'll start with what will be one of our recurring themes, a need versus a want. What I always say when it comes to need versus want, figure out how much you actually need to take part in your hobby, enjoy it, and get the most out of it. And then you can work towards how much time you want to put into it. So when it comes to finding out how much time you actually need in your hobby, don't think about just the hobby itself. So for example, say your hobby is tennis. You hire the court out for an hour. Your assumption would be, well, my hobby takes up an hour. Well, what about prepping your equipment, getting changed, getting ready? What about traveling? Do you live next to the tennis court, or is it a 30-minute drive down the road? These all contribute to the time needed for your hobby. Does your hobby include other people? Figure out their schedules, how much time they can contribute, how much time they need, and then look into availability and organize things so you're not making delays. Just be empathetic. Other people might not be as organized as you, or they might not have watched this video. So another thing that I like to look at if you don't have constraints with regards to time or a specific time of day, look at how the hobby is affected if you do it, say, day or night time. So for example, with the tennis court, is it cheaper in the morning or at night? Or you've got to think about wait times, how popular and how packed, a tennis court and areas might be. These all contribute to how much time you need for your hobby. Now, what I personally like to do is I like to look at all these factors, get a pen and paper and write a list. Okay, this hobby takes 1 to 2 hours of my time. I've got to travel. I've got to pick up Bob on the way. We like to go at night time because it's cheaper and less queues. With all those factors, I need 3 to 4 hours at night time. I can look at my schedule and go from there. Now, you don't have to look into it as much as that, but even just thinking about the contributions and how much time you actually need for this hobby could allow you to better organize and use that time more wisely. So with that information in mind, we've got a better idea now of how much time our hobby actually needs. From here, we can give you tips and tricks on how to better manage that time, organize a routine, and get you enjoying your hobby even more. Now, one of the factors I like to look at when I'm, going into a new hobby is how much time I need to get enjoyment or productivity out of the hobby. Now, you may be thinking the longer you spend at something, clearly the more I'll enjoy it, the more productive it will be. But that's not always the case. Say your hobby is sports related. If you do it for 5-6+ hours, you might get fatigued, your performance will suffer, and you might get injured. On the other hand, if you've got like a artistic hobby, if you go for 5-6 hours, you're going to you might become less productive, you might become fatigued, and the production work becomes of less quality. Therefore, you might enjoy it less. Therefore, just take a quick look at your hobby and find that sweet spot. Maybe you're the type of person that only needs to do tennis for 2 hours. That's the maximum enjoyment, you don't get injured, and you've got a good workout. Find that sweet spot for your hobby. Now, looking at the cost of a hobby might be counterintuitive, you think, to how much time and if you need to put routine into a hobby, etc. But let's stick with the hobby of tennis. You might hire out a tennis court per hour, and there's a cost for that hour. If you go for 2, 3, 4 hours, there's more cost. So just remember, the more time you put into a hobby, it also has an impact on the cost. And these factors do contribute to how much time you can put into a hobby. So hobbies might include other people. Just remember to communicate with the other people you do your hobby with. What's their schedule? How much time can they put into it? And my tip is if you're doing your hobby with other people, organize it ahead of time, get everyone's schedule and how much time they can contribute to the, hobby, and put it in a calendar so everyone knows it's coming, and know that you've got that tennis match 2 weeks from now on a Saturday. So you may be asking yourself, why are we going into so much detail with regards to how much time we actually need for a hobby? When you start thinking about your hobby in this much detail, you start to think about things that consume a lot of time. So, for example, sticking with the tennis hobby, what happens if you get your equipment, your bags, etc., in the car the night before the hobby? That's saving you 20-30 minutes that you could either use more time in the hobby or as a backup plan if something goes wrong. So, with that in mind and that thought process going through now, we can actually start to build a routine. Now, why is that important? Because it saves time, but it also allows for certain people who need maybe motivation. If you get a routine, you're more likely to take part in that hobby, get consistent, and enjoy it. The amount of times I've given up a hobby because I didn't put it into a routine and I became unmotivated is unbelievable. So when you implement a routine, it allows you to see how much time you've got, and you get into a mindset of, okay, every other Saturday morning, I'm going to go to the tennis courts. I can get my equipment and gear done the night before to maximize my time. We can pop that in the calendar and we can see it coming every other week. Now, why is this important? Because then we can see and arrange our time around the fact that we have a routine for our hobby. At the end of the day, it will motivate us and have a backup plan if something goes wrong or we need to contribute time elsewhere. Now, let's face it, you don't need to go as much detail as I would when it comes to hobbies. Let's face it, not everyone is as obsessed with hobbies as I am. But I'm hoping that this information will help those that are struggling to find time to enjoy their hobbies. I hope you found this information useful, but if you still have queries or problems finding time for your hobby, put them in the comment section and hopefully myself or another fellow hobbyist will able to help you as we as a community help each other to enjoy our hobbies even more. Now, if you've got any other questions or suggestions for future content that we can cover to help you enjoy your hobby, let me know in the comment section. I thank you for being a part of our community, and I'll see you, my fellow hobbyists, in the next video.